Andrea Arnold is back with a dollop of magical realism. It's Bird.
There's a lot going on here. It is magical realism within the squalor. It is very much an Andrea Arnold movie in terms of the rawness of it, in terms of the grunginess of it, kind of wallowing in that, but also perhaps offering some humanity and hope out of that. And then it takes a turn. So you guys subscribe and come hang out with us, because not everyone's talking about the latest Andrea Arnold movie, but we will do that for you every time, especially when Barry Keoghan is in it. So
and Franz Rogowski.
What more do you want?
It's another one of these crazy schemes that come to nothing.
So Nykiya Adams is a 12-year-old girl named Bailey. She is living with her dad, played by Barry Keoghan. His name is Bug, and he is just a mess, like a charismatic mess.
Sure.
You can see why people are drawn to him. He's a lot of fun, but he's extremely erratic and also a drug addict, clearly, and has them living in like kind of Dickensian squalor.
It's a squat, right? I mean, I think we could call it that.
I don't think it's meant to be inhabited.
Yeah, I don't think there's a landlord per se.
Yeah, I will say the production design and the sense of place are very vivid in terms of the graffiti and the mattresses on the floor, and just what their day in, day out existence is like in this space that is like kind of an artful mess.
Yeah.
So it's how Bailey is searching for something in her life, some stability, something like there are multiple siblings and multiple families and interconnectedness, and it's all kind of depressing. And one day she comes across this guy who says his name is Bird, is played by Franz Rogowski, and they go on an adventure together and things evolve from there. And I kind of don't want to say how, but either you will go with it or you will not.
Yes.
And I don't know that it works, because it feels like a totally different movie from the extremely vivid and detailed and lived in one that we had been in for the first hour. You're going to need, if you're going to watch it at home, you're going to need subtitles. Right. I mean, it's very heavy accents there in Kent in England. It's very heavy accents and a lot of slang, a lot of teenagers and slang. Maybe it's just that I'm a middle-aged lady. But did you watch it with subtitles?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, whenever I can, I turn the subtitles on, even if it's, my own vernacular. But yeah, when you get into like the really deep sort of working class British, I'm like, please, I need some help here. It did work for me. And okay. I think that, if you want to go sort of magical realist, I think you can jump into that from anything. Mm-hmm. It can be, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, with like fancy, South American aristocrats, or it can be, people living in a squat in Gravesend, which, I'm sorry, England, but you call it down Gravesend and you're just like begging it for be a constant sort of metaphor of like doom and decay. Who thought of that one, Anyway, this is a beautifully made film, as Andrea Arnold's films are. Even when they're grungy, she finds, a way to sort of make it all poetic. Nykiya Adams is a really engaging young performer, and then Rogowski and Keoghan never have a scene together, but it is cool to see them both in this movie. There's even a dig at Saltburn, which I enjoyed.
That was so funny. Oh my God, I laughed out loud. Like, yes, thank you for that.
Because I'm sorry, Kick Rocks, Emerald Fennell, Andrea Arnold will always be 10 times the director you are, and I said it.
That's a whole different conversation that I don't want to have right now.
Fair enough. But yeah, this did work for me, and I was so engaged with Bailey and her life and her trying to sort of work out the stuff that's happening around her. Her dad wants to get married, and move in, like the new wife and her daughter. And her brother is kind of off doing this stuff that she kind of wants to be involved with, but is also sort of terrified of. That when it took that turn, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sure. It didn't feel like a violation of the honesty of everything else that had been happening up to that point.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, because she has established these characters so well and established this world so well, that when it evolves in realistic ways, who this family is and what they want from life, and what steps they're taking to achieve that, it accomplishes something very surprising. At least it did for me in terms of like the emotional groundswell that you have by the end of it. It's easy to feel kind of smug and superior to people like this because like they're just awful. And they just seem like they are getting in their own way all the time. And there's no hope here at all. And then there's something surprisingly romantic and kind of sweet that emerges from this world that I was taken aback by.
Yeah, I think if you look at Andrea Arnold's films, like if you look at Fish Tank, even her, you know, I always say, is it Wuthering Heights or Jane Eyre? I know she did one of them. You know, I think that she has a real gift for, you know, avoiding what we might call, you know, poverty porn. I think she, you know, even like American Honey, which is not a film that I like as much as her other ones, I think at least it feels true to the characters, and that she's not just sort of she did Wuthering Heights. She's not sort of standing outside kind of observing and tut-tutting. I think she's sort of like, there's life here too, and people go through their daily existences even if they don't have what other people have, or have the stability that other people have, or if they are facing these kind of life challenges. And so, you know, ultimately I think that her characters are allowed an access to a kind of magic in these stories that anybody else would, you know?
Yeah, I think Barry Keoghan is doing something here that reminded me a lot of Shia LaBeouf in American Honey.
Sure, yeah.
In
like
that he's a mess and clearly very
mess.
dangerous, but he's like charming as hell, and you can see how people would get sucked into that orbit. It'd be a lot of fun to hang out with him until it's not. Yeah, there is definitely beauty that emerges from this, and Franz Rogowski's performance has a lot to do with that. There is a lot of tenderness there, and a much needed source of sweetness there in this really harsh world that this teenage girl undergoes. It's like the saddest summer that changed everything movie ever, you know. But then there's ultimately hope, you know. It's like, I mean, I do appreciate that she gets into a genre in a totally inspired and different way.
Oh, for sure. And I think there's such specificity to all the characters. I mean, to, you know, to Barry Keoghan's girlfriend, to Bailey's mom and her siblings that still live with her, and you know, that whole situation that's going on there. Like everywhere you go, you feel like there's a clear sense of who they are and where they are and what they're doing and what's specific about their kind of, you know, life. Even when they kind of go on their adventure and they meet the couple that Bird is trying to track down, like there's, you know, they also feel very kind of lived in. Everybody, there's a real sense of like being real people and not just sort of like, you know, paper
Ideas.
Characters to fill a space, you know.
That scene with the mom's boyfriend is terrifying.
Oh, for sure.
So tense, because it all takes place like just in this one tight room, and anything could happen at any moment. It's very suspenseful.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I this is movie I fear is going to kind of get lost in the year-end shuffle. It premiered at Cannes this year, but yeah, if you are a fan of Andrea Arnold's work, you should really seek this one out.
What's your number?
I'll say like an 8.1. I thought it was really strong, and I'm going to be thinking about this one for a while.
I'm going to say like a 6.3, because I think what it does well, but I just had a hard time getting on board with that turn that it takes. But it might work for others. Your mileage may vary, as you're fond of saying.
Absolutely, yeah. So, you know, check it out, see what you think. And, you know, justice for Andrea Arnold after they did her wrong on, what was it, Big Little Lies, right?
Yes, that's true.
So, you know, I'm glad she's out there doing her thing.